I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Old Saybrook Water Pollution Control Authority on Monday, May 11th in Town Hall. Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Elsa Payne, Chairman.
Present.
Ian Featherstone, Vice Chairman.
Present.
George Dequist, Secretary. Present. Chuck Worley.
Present.
John F. Claffey Jr.
Present.
Jason Becker.
Present.
Peter Stump, alternate.
Present.
And Robert Singer, alternate.
Present.
Roll call taken, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Sanger, I guess you'll be seated this time?
I have no idea who was seated last time. It was your choice.
That's correct.
Okay.
You were seated last meeting, right?
Yep. Okay then. Okay, if we'll please stand for
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of April 27th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from April 27th, 2015.
Second.
Any comments or discussion? Bob, are you, do you have any?
No.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Any members wish to address the board? No? We'll move on to staff reports, starting with financial.
You have the operating budget for April. Nothing of any particular change. However, I would point out that with only 2 months left in the fiscal year, we have 23% of our budget remaining. I did a quick projection, and I would guess that we are going to be returning to the town somewhere around 25,000 plus or minus.
May I have a motion to accept this budget report?
Make a motion that we accept the budget report for the year 2014-2015.
Dated.
The dating
Bottom left.
is, I'm sorry, May 4th, 2015. Thank you.
Second.
All right, any comments or discussion? Questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
We have 2 non-construction invoices. One from Laughlin Fitzgerald in the amount of $2,102.28 for work on benefit assessment appeals. And one from Wright Pierce Engineers for consulting services for April 2015 in the amount of $12,618.76.
Those are separate, together. We'll do them separate. I'll make a motion we pay the Laughlin Fitzgerald bill in the amount of $2,102.28.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. We're opposed.
Abstain? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to pay the Wright Pierce bill in the amount of $12,618.76.
I'll second the motion to pay the Wright Pierce bill for that amount of $12,618.76.
Okay. Any discussion or questions?
I did have a question, if I could see the bill.
Oh,
Overhead allocation, 167.99%. 670866, do we have any idea what that is?
The overhead allocation, that's in the contract. They bill at a rate and bill at an overhead rate, that's what we approved. Right, Steve?
You're talking about Wright Pierce now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because they had,
The hourly rates
were low,
are low,
yes.
because they're just really going at the hourly rates and then the rest of the.
Yeah, that's an approved allocation by DEEP in terms of what they can have.
Okay, so that's for the laborer,
Whatever's eligible. I don't think it's limited to that.
Page 2 shows the hourly rate for each person.
you're right, yeah, I saw that, I saw all that.
We've sort of gone to the
That's
other
why
extreme
it caught
here
my eye,
from
too.
Justin O'Neill.
Because they have
Yeah. The
the
labor.
personnel
rates.
services, and then that's that, and then they have the overhead allocation.
Right.
So I didn't pull up my calculator.
Let me confirm that for you, Chuck. I can give you the call tomorrow.
Yeah, yep. So that's applied to the applied to the personnel. Okay, that was the question I had.
And this was for.
It's not an unusual number.
Yeah. Okay, okay.
There was a lot of labor so far. We had two major meetings, one where they came down here and physically reviewed all the properties. And on that, after that, we met with them to spend the morning going over the total list of properties that we should consider in terms of yes, no, and maybe. Some of them we knew were gonna be no's, but because of due diligence, not to be in a position where somebody would say, did you look at this? We put everything there. So.
I think even at, 167%, the rates that they list, it's still a very reasonable hourly rate, when you factor that in. Okay, well, that was the question I had.
And we have a total contract price on that too.
We have a total that to us.
Right, right. I have a question, Steve. Have we put any shovels in the ground yet on
No.
any sites?
No, we've gotten to the point where we reviewed that list to select where we would want to start. I also have access to one of the two top prospects working on the other one. And what needs to happen next is a plan to coordinate that, because when we do that, we need to have DEEP there, we need to have the health department there. Our crew will be actually doing the hole digging. And we have to get utility survey done prior to that. So there's a lot to coordinate. But that'll be the next major step in that process.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of paying the Wright Pierce invoice, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Abstained?
We have 4 construction invoices from JCR LLC. Total in the amount of $46,740.
Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to pay the bill from JTR LLC for the amount of $46,740.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Abstained? Anything else, Rachel?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, coordinators report?
I attended the corporate workshop, spring workshop on Friday with Peter and Stephen and George. They had a really nice panel on reuse. It was really interesting. And the next time we get together, we'll be working on the fall workshop. And I'll let you know what we're looking at then.
Water reuse?
Yeah,
Mhm.
recycling and bring it back in. Denise Rosica was on the panel, so it's kind of interesting that DEP is not really looking to regulate that. I guess they've got so much stuff to regulate, they're not really looking to do that. The only regulation, I guess, is potable water. Interesting. Okay, we sent the Indiantown postcards out, just telling people in the neighborhood, like we send the survey postcards out, just telling people when you see the equipment, these are for the people that volunteered. And we have, at this point, 94 volunteers. So they were told that in May, we'll start in soil testing. It's generating a few phone calls. Some people, want to know, can they get in there, or do you have information on my property, and so forth. Which is good. We sent the first batch of pump out cards. That we have around 57 cards just to get going again. But I met with Larry Hayden today, the IT guy, and we're going to be reviewing some records for the Carmody export. So he's got all the fields set up, ready to go. He's working with Carmody. We're just going to look at the records. And there's like 6,600 parcels in the town. We're not going to go over everyone. We're just going to look and see if they look pretty good, and then we'll let it go. So that's going to update our pump out system, all the addresses and the owners. So I hope that, once that starts looking good, then we're going to be doing our pump out cards every month. Maple Avenue 1, the bid docs are in review. So Dennis has them, Brad has them, our site manager has them. We have a goal for May 18th release. Maybe that's a little bit aggressive, but. Meadowwood 2, that contract signing is supposed to be next Monday, also the 18th. And the last thing is, that East Point was approved. So the attorney contacted me, and he'd like to give a presentation probably the next meeting. And the reason for that is they're looking at, remember the system was an ATS, it was a BioClear. They're looking at converting it back to using a conventional system instead. So when he shows up, I'll go over it with us, and I'll try to get all the plans in advance. So then I directed him to John. What we need to do is collect the money. And I think it was $15,375 based on our community assistance policy. So we'll collect the money from them, and they'll draw off of that. Any money left over, they'll get back. So the attorney's going to work with John to do a new maintenance agreement, and he's going to work with Kurt to populate the figures. What's it cost to maintain the system? It should be interesting though, because as I said, it's a conventional system. It's also not condo associations, apartments. So I'm just wondering how it's going to affect the maintenance agreement. But we'll find out.
So that's the new apartment complex?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you get testimony and stuff, you see next time.
So that's a DEP system,
Yeah.
and we're just involved with the maintenance agreement.
Right.
But if we don't get a maintenance agreement, we don't get the
Right.
approval.
But as a courtesy, they should present to us, what the system is that they're proposing, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll try to get all the plans, get it to you. So this is posted on the report, and Steve, I think, I'll go over it.
What you looked at prior to this, they changed, Rodney?
Yeah, it was a BioClear, an ATS. And the last thing I heard last week is it's gonna be a conventional system. That's all right, we have a lot of those in town.
So we have another system to look at, plus the project is real now, so
Right.
we need to move forward with some kind of maintenance agreement.
That's
Mr. Roddick?
I have questions
Maybe a
on,
question on the fussing.
what's on
report.
board.
Okay,
Go ahead, Bob.
are you going to?
Yeah, I can answer it too, I'm going to cover it a little bit. Sure, what's your question?
Let's see here. First page, number 4, WPCA is no longer performing GPR
Yeah, I can cover that in my report.
in your report.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, H, this is on page 1. Item 2, contract area, man 1, contains 1 engineered design property. So they're waiting from the WPCA on how to proceed.
Mhm. We can either give it to them or we can look for an alternative source.
Right.
You know, it'll be a question of what price we think we can get to do it for the least amount for the residents. So we're just gonna look at it. We haven't made a determination yet.
Who's gonna look at it?
We are.
Oh, okay. So the choices for an engineer would be Fuss, would you consider Wright Pierce, or maybe, I don't know.
We
Would
actually
you-
asked Dennis about that. We had one in phase 1 that we handled under small procurements. We put out a bid locally. Not sure how we're gonna handle this particular thing.
That was Indigo?
Yeah, it was Indigo that won that bid
Yep.
and did that one for
Yep.
about, at the time, about a quarter of.
It was a good price, yeah.
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 So we got a very good price, and it made us think about doing, at least checking into an alternative.
And that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gus and O'Neill did come down, but it's still a reasonable amount of money.
mhm.
No, your question is a good one about GPR. We spent most of our time in the last couple of weeks looking at process efficiencies with regard to conventional upgrades. And the reason for that is we got a late start because of the weather, and we have so much work to do. It became apparent that we needed to shorten the timeline. I think you've all seen this. Outlines the steps from when we have our first meeting with an area, and residents of that area, to when we start construction, and that's 100 days. And, you know, it involves 4 different agencies. It's deep, it's CRAD, it's, you know, it's us and Fuss and O'Neill. So we started with our own process internally. What were the things that we were doing, and what could we shorten? Every day right now is critical, so we looked at every single thing on this list to really determine whether it was critical, whether it was important, or whether it was just something that was nice to have. So one of the changes we made was the GPR. And that's not as drastic as Fuss and O'Neill has stated it. We still use it where we think it's helpful to have that information. But it became apparent that doing it on every single property was not effective in terms of the time it took and the cost and the usefulness of that data. So for that reason, that was one of the things that we eliminated. We also looked at what CRAD was doing. We had a meeting with them to go over their participation, looking for ways that we could work better together. It's difficult, you know, they're a separate entity. They have their own agendas, yet they have to work with us, so it's hard to coordinate that. We also wanted to give them a heads up on how much work was ahead that we need them to participate in for their staffing requirements. Then we talked with Fuss and O'Neill. We need to have a meeting with them, but we've had some dialogue push the contracts along, as Robbie mentioned. So we've got one contract being executed, another one is already allocated, and we're moving as fast as we can to get the next one out. It's at deep right now for approval. And then there are 4 more contracts after that. So we have a lot to still get out there, and the weather's good. So we need to have more people out there working. In addition, I talked with Deep. We're trying to make them aware of what our requirements were, trying to shorten the timeframes for their approval process, getting things through their regulatory process. And lastly, we have an open position, so we were looking at our staffing needs, and we're trying to come up with a job description and realized we were looking for too much in one person. So we ended up having a meeting with Bob Hammersley of DTC, an engineering company, to see if we could sort of affordably get some inspection services. That way we could sort of have a flexible workforce, expand our force without committing to long-term contracts. It happens that they are a WBE, MBE, which would work nicely with Fuss & O'Neill. So if that turns out to be economically viable, we may do that as the construction picks up, and that would give us the option to have our own staff more flexible.
You said DTC?
Yeah, it's Diversified Technology Consultants. They're an engineering company. They do a lot of different engineering things, but they do a lot of staffing and construction projects around the state. So I knew about them, and I knew this was one of the things that they might be able to provide. With CRAD, we also talked about a number of agreements that will be coming up in the next couple of months. The Public Health Service Agreement doesn't terminate, but there is a provision for cost increases, and we may tweak that a little bit. So starting with that, there was a second amendment to that, which we have to review in terms of redoing the first one, and maybe reapprove that. I'll look at that. And we have not yet finalized an agreement with regard to enforcement services and their legal costs. So when we get through the others and finalize a process for enforcement, we had looked at the joint defense agreement, which was not appropriate in terms of changing it for that purpose. So there's a draft memorandum of understanding already formed that will, I think, accomplish the same thing, but we need to finalize that as well. A few resident issues, mostly restoration. With regard to last year's work, and we met with the Indian Town Association on upcoming work, and that went pretty well. So, trying to get out ahead of informing those residents and get them cooperative in terms of anticipated work. So that went pretty well. We met with Ed Olson, who's the president, and Fred Mascola, their communications person. Do you know Fred? Have you met these people before? They appreciated the information, so I think they'll be helpful. And lastly, Wright Pierce, we already talked about kind of the work that they're doing. We need to develop the test plan, as I mentioned, and that's going pretty well and on target time-wise for what we anticipated doing. So that's what we're up to the last 2 weeks.
Any questions for Steve?
Yeah, I still have questions on the
The report?
Fuss & O'Neill report, yeah. paragraph 5I, Maple Avenue North 2 to 5, awaiting repair designations and test pit logs from Pratt. What's that telling me?
Yeah, we now have, we have all of the test pit work done for Maple Avenue North, so that's complete at this point.
Okay.
And they use that information to develop a designation on the property. That has to get transmitted up to Fuss, who puts that into the plan and also develops the bid document.
Okay, so, so this was basically 5-4, it's now 5-11. So since 5-4, we have all the information we need on the test pits and they can move forward, okay.
The test pit information is really kind of the key point. It's absolutely critical information, and it's a little further, excuse me, a little further along in the process. So we're looking at ways to get that done, move it up, so we can get these contracts out.
Okay. So I3, Fuss and O'Neill updated the schedule for all the Maple Avenue North contract areas and transmitted it to Old Saybrook Water Pollution Control on 5-4. So do we have a copy of that schedule that they sent supposedly?
I have it, we have it. But that's, again, you know, their proposed schedule. We're trying to move that along.
Okay, it would be interesting to see what they're proposing for
Yeah,
the
if you
schedule.
want to stop by,
Okay.
it's an update on what we've had.
So, just from memory then, are we planning on having all Maple Avenue North done by the end of the year?
That's the plan,
Okay.
sooner than later.
Okay, anyone else?
If I could follow up on the GPR. For the first group, just to confirm, we did not really find the GPR to be much of a benefit. I mean, the reason we got it was to discover things on a property that the contractor might not find until they started digging around. And then, you know, if they ran into something, they'd have to stop. That would, you know, could perhaps involve a change order, more expense, yada, yada. So the incidence of finding things really was not as much as we
Yeah.
had anticipated.
This was before I came, but there was an incident where they hit a propane tank that turned out to be empty.
Yes.
However, they just haven't discovered that they've been, you know, had these hazards to the extent that they anticipated. It's useful if the residents give you some heads up or information on what might be there or concerns that they have.
Okay.
We'd certainly use it in that case. It can also be used to confirm water lines. Sometimes water lines aren't exactly straight or where you anticipate them to be. So
Sure.
once in a, you know, we've had an issue with getting a water line on rare occasion too, because it was totally outside any area of expectation. Well, you know, we're not gonna stop, but there has to be some sort of other reason other than just doing it on everyone to spend the time on it. It hasn't proven, the data hasn't proven to be that useful.
Okay. Well,
And that was a consensus with, you know, our people, with CRAD and Fuss and O'Neill, so.
so you've had experience on 250 properties or more at this point.
Yeah.
And your experience has been that it's not as much of a benefit as you thought it might have been. And that was really the question.
Yeah.
that I had.
That's.
I was just looking to be reassured, because as I stated, if the contractor finds something and then he's gotta stop or make some changes, you know, then that gets to be more expensive.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Experience hasn't shown that benefit to be realized when you put all, you know, it may be that on one particular site again, we'll find something and it'll require more time, but it doesn't justify all the time that we're gonna spend trying to find that one thing.
Okay.
I feel that to go along with that, when we get into areas such as Indian Town, Crocker Beach, et cetera, where they are so close, that it would be a safety thing to make sure we use that just in case, because of just house, everything is so close together, that things could get inadvertently dropped in somewhere and boom, forgot about it, like the propane tank or that oil tank in New York that exploded even though it was totally empty just last week. I mean, safety should be number one. And when you're going into situations or locations where nothing has been done for so many years, we have no idea what's down there. And to err on the side of safety is, I think, more important than anything else.
I mean, it's a consideration, but it's just, if you look at what you have to do and the risk and rewards, and we had to cut this somehow. We also have done a lot of test holes, so we're digging those holes as well and have not encountered any issues with those. I mean, if that situation changes, we will revisit that. So we haven't, we've made a change as a way of operating currently until something changes.
See what happens.
Well,
I have one last question on Maple Avenue. Do we have opt-ins and opt-outs there?
Yeah.
General numbers? Top of your head?
By the way, GPRing was not a clean water flood requirement, that was
It's
something.
just the contracts.
Oh,
we
yeah.
added-
Oh,
we
yeah.
added to the process.
Wait, it's not that number.
It's an individual.
Just an interesting number. Okay, thanks.
It's not a lot.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any old business? Any new business? No? Okay. I will now open it up to public comment. If anyone cares to address the board. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
I'll second a motion to adjourn our meeting at 8:02 PM.
All those in favor?
Aye.